welcome to tonight's edition of the Evening Review. My name is Taiwan Jabala, your host for tonight. Let's quickly look at the front page of today's Namibian Sun. So in tonight's segment of the interviews, I'm joined by Dr. Job Amupanda. He's an academic and activist. Welcome back to the show, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. So, congratulations first and foremost. You really persevered. But what caught my attention is when you said on Twitter, on social media, that Moshitila Mazo Njupa, which essentially, for those who do not understand Ashwambo, means that something big has emerged of something that is initially seen as non grata, if you like. Is that the context of that exclamation? Was it in the context of your background, being a rural boy from Omalala, who then rose to the top? What was the context of that pronouncement?
Yeah, well, we it is characteristic of many other young people in the African continent, in Namibia. There's always this thing about first generation. And we are at the University of Stellenbosch, where I did my master's. There used to be first generation scholarship, first generation, and they had a conceptualization of what it means, first generation. Yeah. That means the children that are the first ones to have gone to university in their families. Be it extended, in some extreme cases, it's really an extended family. Yeah. So when you, at that point, from the perspective of a nucleus family, I mean, when you go to university from your grandmother's house, you become the first. Others do follow, and almost every step of the way that you take, you become the first in that little nucleus context, and that is really what it means. That's why the second version of that, of Moshitira Mazo Njupa, as you explained, it was that Rumoho Irongamanga Kujweripo. It means for some reason when we eat or whatever we do, we're supposed to do it with our right hands in our cultural upbringing. And then the saying is that the left hand must at times learn while the right hand is there. Because I don't know whether it was said in the context where people used to be chopped off. If you lose your arm, you don't struggle. So the idea is that let's try to do what we can do so that the future generation can get to learn. You see, most of the times, you can't be the editor of Namibian Sun and you tell everybody that Namibian Sun is the best, yet you don't buy Namibian Sun for your family. And you find CEOs who run companies and they say their companies are the best, yet they don't take the services of that. You find ministers of health on the African continent who say their health system is the best, but they don't get treated in the very same hospital that they say they are the best.
Except in COVID-19 times.
Yeah, so it's the PhD that I did in, it's the first PhD in political science produced in Namibia. That basically means that it's the first PhD in politics at the University of Namibia. So, but people have been there, they study, they do their PhDs outside very difficult really to do a PhD at the University of Namibia because we don't have well-developed infrastructure. But if you are an academic, you are a public intellectual who wants to particularly from the persuasion that I come from, decolonial persuasion, where you really want to indigenize knowledge systems. So I can't just say that we are doing the best in political science at the University of Namibia if myself I don't have confidence in that. So I had to, obviously as a deputy dean also of the faculty, I had to demonstrate that it is possible. Most of colleagues, their children go to other universities. There's nothing wrong with that, but I just thought somebody somewhere must sacrifice. So that's one component. The second component is really what my study does. My study disturbs the tables in terms of its findings, in terms of its approach. For instance, I was taking on the natural resource case. The natural resource case is a theory that has been dominant in political economy and also in political science. It says that countries that are endowed in natural resources register sluggish economic growth. So in other words, there's a correlation between abundance of natural resources and underdevelopment. So they would take a country like Equatorial Guinea and a lot of resources that that country has and the level of development. So then they develop this theory to say that there is this correlation. So countries that have a lot of natural resources tend to have some sort of case. And it's been coming from the 1970s all the way to today. So, but our approach from a decolonial framework, I wanted to say, hey, wait, hold on. There is a case study here. Yes, there's abundance of natural resources in Namibia, but look at what these people did. Look at what the Awambo workers at CDM did. And they really brought about development in the conceptualization of Amartya Sen, who defined development as freedom, as opportunities, you know. So the overall architect of the development of Awamboland as a whole is credited to the illegal diamond economy. So it was not a comfortable topic. I had a lot of fights with my supervisors, and they still do not understand why, because it was disturbing. And eventually, at one point, I got fed up. There are two academics in African history who have done that. One was Chinwenzu from Nigeria. The other one, he wrote a thesis, The West and the Rest of Us. And he went to the examiners, and the supervisor could not, and he took his dissertation and he went and he said, to hell with your qualification, I'm intending to publish my findings. And the other one, I think Sheikh Anta Diop, also the Senegalese scholar, also had the face, because people think that it's easy in academia. It's not easy in academia. So I had that difficulty. At one point I wanted to completely abandon, because the idea of retreating and surrender, one of the aspects you would see is that there was this overwhelming evidence of in the thesis it's called Diamond Princess. The guys that are credited, the big business people in Awamboland who are credited for the well-known business personalities. There was overwhelming evidence that their wealth came from illegal diamonds, and we spent about 3 months fighting with supervisors.
Not from Sweets.
Yeah? No. That thing is it. Well, that's what they've been told. And I was really prepared to mention their names, because there was corresponding evidence, because my data set is not just the interviews that I've done. I've checked court records, I checked secondary sources, and many other archival sources also who are mentioning some of these names. So it's not easy. So that is a whole narrative about Moshitila Mwazo Njupa. Is from a cultural orientation and also from a decolonial orientation, that the little circles that we are coming from, be it cultural or philosophical in orientation, something significant have come out from that littleness, that little corner, little identity that we find ourselves.
Indeed. So you are in academia, you are a rising star of academia in Namibia. What opportunities does this bring, both at a personal level and in a broader sense, to say, for example, that in terms of both enlightenment of the mind and, of course, in terms of opportunities?
Yeah. Well, in fact, I need to contextualize the space that I find, the space that I operate and I locate within academia. There is a greatest thinker called Antonio Gramsci. Gramsci he was describing the character and the nature of intellectuals, and then he came to two types of intellectuals.
Yeah.
There is those that he calls the organic intellectuals and the traditional intellectuals. The traditional intellectuals are the neat ones. They go to campus, wear ties and relax, and they get called to comment, and they don't get involved in the messy things. They carefully watch what they say. So they must project themselves as academics. They for example, they will not speak in slang. They will not indulge in traditional liquor. So they need to they need to be projecting themselves as people who read newspapers and go to the restaurants and eat the finest of food, travels, and all those things. So their role is just they limit themselves within the neat and clean spaces. And then Gramsci was saying, but who's going to speak for the masses? Who's going to articulate the position using your enlightenment that you know to solve problems that are perplexing society? That takes us to the second category of intellectuals that are called the organic intellectuals. So in other words, the organic intellectuals expand the boundaries. They don't just limit themselves to the fine suits and nice restaurants and conferences and journals. They actually go to the streets. They practice. So if, for instance, you are teaching African indigenous knowledge systems, you must be seen practicing. So in other words, if you are teaching democratic consolidation, if you are teaching about citizens' participation as a political scientist, but you have no experience of how it feels to organize a protest, you are then that's the fundamental difference that you find yourself. So you would see, for example, something would happen in Namibia, and I will be involved in that, what is happening, and my colleagues at the university will be called by newspapers to what do you think? So the difference is that we make the news and the activities as organic intellectuals, and our colleagues, the traditional intellectuals, interpret. Then they give their views, what they think. So sometimes I look at them, they comment to the newspapers, and we meet and they say, oh, so colleagues, this is your view. And then you give them that side that they don't understand. So I operate in that space of an organic intellectual who articulate, sometimes with passions and robustness, the feelings and the ideas and the pain and suffering of the masses of the people, instead of just being comfortable. And that comes with advantages and disadvantages. Because you operate in this muddy space. You are able to attract even thugs and all sort of people to engage with you. You wake up one day, somebody, hey, I want to meet you, what, and people want to make you, because you are operating in that space. So that's always a hard balance that I have decided that is the best approach to, because knowledge must be meaningful to society. For instance, in my PhD, I discovered that the CDM, the forerunner of Namdeb, was actually, people would go to, you remember they would go there for 18 months. They would go there for 18 months, and some people went and they never came back. So it is not just about me getting my qualification. It's a discovery, but that's why in my thesis I titled it as the troubling questions. Those are the questions. There's a lot of people who just went, and the families don't know what had happened to them. So because of that, obviously I couldn't pursue that at the level of my studies. It's something that I want to do now, that we need to be able to account. Of course, at the personal level, what it does, you enter the 2%. You know, the people that have PhDs in Namibia are 2% of the population. So you enter that little group, and the trend is also like that globally. Very few people, you enter some sort of elite in knowledge production, in knowledge spaces. But a PhD is not the alpha and omega. You know, somebody was saying, yeah, you see, and we must be careful about that, because if I have a PhD, therefore I can say anything, and that anything that I say is credible. No.
Yeah.
We shouldn't promote a culture like that. Of course, we need to celebrate it for the purposes of inspiring others, so that, because the idea is that you must keep on moving. If you can't fly, you must run. If you can't run, you must walk. If you can't walk, you must crawl, as long as you're moving.
Yes.
So the idea is that our people must not be stagnant. Of course, it brings opportunities at any given. I'm part of international scholarly networks, but people see us protesting and doing the politicking. They don't see there's a lot that is happening on the background. At any given time, I can leave Namibia, and I hope that doesn't happen, and go and teach wherever. I wanted to be a professor by 30. It's one of the targets that I had set for myself as far as maybe 2009 already. I couldn't be a professor by 30. That dream was delayed, I think by 2 or 3 years. So we'll see what's going to happen over the coming years or so. But it of course, it maximizes opportunities. It's almost like there are conversations that I participate in this scholarly network now that I couldn't participate before, you know. And that PhD is a 5-year period. It's not like 2 weeks and things like that. So it's intense work. So when you do that, you also learn, you also grow academically. Sometimes you send in a chapter and the supervisor come back and this is absolute nonsense. Are you sure you know what you're doing? Build your character. Sometimes you see a supervisor in the corridor and saying, this guy. But it teaches you to accept certain things, you know, to live to fight another day. You grow also intellectually in that process, and you come across a lot of data. You come across a lot of some information. You come across certain information. You also laugh. You laugh about it, and a lot of things start making sense. Of course, there is personal benefit, a lot that I'm even unable to articulate here for quite a number of reasons, and one of the reasons being that it is not really that of a priority to me, and this is what we need to be able to emphasize, that people make a mistake. Once you enter this 2% of the population in the country that has PhDs, you are not worse off. You are better off compared to others. Yes. Just because we chill and hang out in the street doesn't mean we are poor. We're not poor. I'm not certainly poor. Just because you are fighting for those that don't have doesn't necessarily mean. So there is a lot of comfort that come with it. There's a lot of opportunity that come with it. So you almost have like an international passport, you know, and you have international passport. I can get up today, go to Australia, go to Ghana, go to Tanzania, or go to another place with my family, and those are all things that comes, and you can shape policies. I am a country expert for VDEM, one of the biggest social science data set where you code the levels of democracy and the responses to that. So you have that type of influence. You get to participate in collaborative research where you present the case of Namibia when they look for these knowledgeable people. So it's a whole lot of things, and it is not really that it's exciting. I wanted to attend graduation, and it's you see, when you graduate, it's a personal space. Somebody was criticizing me. You are a lecturer, you are employed at the university, how can you say that? I say, no, wait. I'm a student. I have a student number. I have the right as a student to express my view and feelings as far as the institution is concerned on matters of personal growth and development and preferences. So I was traumatized. Our chancellor is Nangolo Mbumba. So when you graduate, he was going to be capping. I have personal differences with him, and in that personal space of me graduating, I was always traumatized by this thought of Nangolo Mbumba keeping me there.
Well, what is your problem with him?
Well, remember, I'm talking about personal space. We have personal problems, and he has been operating in my personal spaces for quite a long time. I think at one point I went to an interview of an international desk officer, at Electricity Control Board. And after the interviews, the CEO called me, and the late Siseo Simasiku, and he called, "Hey, young man, you were one of the successful ones," because the position was international desk officer. My master's in political science, and I was looking at the role of Namibia in SADC, so I was clued up about those things. And he said, I wanted to confirm, because remember, after the interviews, the shortlisted candidate, successful candidate, maybe top 3 goes to the CEO, and the CEO get to appoint. And he said, no, I wanted to do that, and I was having, he had a close relationship with Nangolo Mbumba. And he said that Nangolo Mbumba said no. I was so angry, Toivo. I was wondering, how can a politician influence a process? And he said, yeah, all those things. I was not interested anymore, because it basically demonstrated to me that politicians are doing all sort of things. And after that, I lost interest. That position was never filled, to the best of my knowledge, and the old man died. Of course, and there are many other cases. So this is the guy who operates in my personal space. So I imagine him keeping me. It brings back bad memories. But at the same time, my great-grandmother is 100, and she's turning 105. She's still very strong. She works on, but she have never been to Windhoek. She have never crossed the Oshivelo for all those 105 years of her existence. My great-grandmother. So I wanted her to be at the graduation. So I faced this dilemma. I faced this dilemma of wanting my grandmother to be there, and that's the loss because of Corona. Unfortunately, she can't come. But the good thing is that I graduated in absentia. I don't have Nangolo Mbumba putting his head on my thing. But I think with the passage of time, it may be something that I need to deal with, and just. I mean, he's an old man. I think maybe I need to forgive him for the sins that you've committed.
Forgiveness is the best. It's the best tool. So, as we wind up, maybe I have 2 more questions. But one is about how much do you feel academics, people like yourself with this wealth of knowledge, are productively utilized to the benefit of the country, not only in the confines of UNAM where you work and those international networks that you are involved in. Namibia has an abundance of national resources. And you are talking about the curse that many countries are battling with. How much are people like yourself valued to actually shape the conversations and discourse around beneficiation of national resources?
Well, it's a... It's the nature of the, because remember, it's the nature of the political system. Start from the notions of academic freedom. It is a guaranteed right, freedom of thought, conscience, and it's a fundamental right. In other words, it's almost, for those of us that are in those spaces, we enjoy those rights. But there are people, even within the spaces of the university, who wants to redefine a fundamental right. So the problem with our political system is that aspect of academic freedom, you must remember, if you have a bird, and the bird has a responsibility of flying, if the bird is kept in a room like this, the bird will not be able to fly. And in flying, the bird not only mingles and fits very well with the environment, it also it affects the ecosystem. It goes and picks the food here. It does a lot of things. So my view is that academics are not given the necessary space for 2 reasons. They are not given necessary space by the political system and the political institutions of the country, at the same time by themselves and their institution. Take an example of a university such as the University of Stellenbosch. When there was these problems of fees must fall in South Africa, I think there were about 2 or 3 billionaires in South Africa. They just decided, Stellenbosch, we don't want this strike and stories. So the guys gave about billions to the university because they understood that the university must continue to be a space for knowledge production and knowledge, in other words, knowledge that is impactful. So when I was at Stellenbosch, for example, I used to carry boxes in the underground tunnel when I used to, because it was tough, so I had to do some manual labor for the postgraduate office. So in those files that I used to get underground, there would be a scholarship called TB Storm. It's a scholarship of 1910. And remember, that was in 2010. That's maybe 100 years. So the institution, it is autonomous even in terms of operation.
Yeah.
So the part of the challenge now is that a vice chancellor of a university must be very good with the minister. If a minister does not like Job, they can simply just call the vice chancellor. I have had those cases where a file, for instance, at State House was vice chancellor and the leadership of the university went to State House and they got a file, and the file on my social media posting, and it was given to the university management to deal with me.
Yeah.
And the university management gave it to the legal department to deal. So those problems, even if a vice chancellor wants to do certain things, they don't have space for that. That is why at Stellenbosch, for instance, the university or UCT and all those spaces, because they have institutional autonomy, they are able to say that, no, we don't agree with the government. You see, for instance, the amount of land in Namibia that is under government control for agriculture is about 8,000 hectares of land in the whole country.
Yes.
Those are your Kalimbeza, your Etunda irrigation, 8,000. But the last I checked the statistics, but the tobacco plantation alone, that farm is 10,000 hectares of land. So in the whole country, all your food production machinery measures 8,000. So if the university could say that we don't agree with that approach, therefore we are going to look for 15,000 hectares of land, which is higher than the 8,000 hectares of government, so that we can demonstrate food production. So in other words, but the university does not have opportunity to do that. They are limited to support and to operate within the 8,000 hectares of land. So that is one of the fundamental problems that you find. That is why COVID actually gave us an opportunity to as an institution and as academics.
Yes.
This is what the colleagues, for instance, in pharmacy, when they developed the sanitizer, some people were complaining, but Job, how can you congratulate the university for producing sanitizers and other places? I'm saying no. The reason why I'm thanking the University of Namibia for producing sanitizers is because, finally, because of COVID, those colleagues that are there now get an opportunity to demonstrate to society. When government opened the offices, all those sanitizers, they came from the University of Namibia. So to answer your question is that because the universities and academic spaces don't have institutional autonomy that allows them to protect and practice academic freedom, most of the things that they do, they are unable to do that. I mean, just look at what, as a political scientist, my unit of analysis is the political system and the political actor. Sometimes people say, but why are you targeting? I can't target a principal. That's the responsibility of teachers. I must target the president. I must target ministers. I must target members of parliament because that's my unit of analysis. Just like veterinary scientists, they target dogs and donkeys and cattle. So we are focused, we are very clear that we are focusing on these guys because we are trained to study political behavior. It is not just because you have some personal things that, no. I have no business in analyzing the guards at Namibian Sun. My business is to analyze those that are in the political system, who it makes uncomfortable, so be it. But I can, even when I do that with my freedom to do that, I do it in a most hustling way. Every day I have letters coming into the university. People saying, deal with this boy. Why are you having that guy there? Get rid of him. But so these things happen all the time. So, and if I was not strong enough to be able to defend my space, how about colleagues that are in education? You know, there are a lot of people who actually believe, and even during this time of COVID, there are colleagues in the education faculty who have ideas on how best we can, but the political space and the institution does not allow them an opportunity to be able to do that. I think if we take out the bird out of the room, allows it to fly, it's going to give us a beautiful scenery. You know, sometimes people are just stressed and you look at the bird and give you some sort of solace.
Yes.
But imagine if all the beds are put in this concubine,
Yes.
in this cubicle.
Yeah. Not concubine.
Yeah, in this cubicle.
Yes.
They will not be able to fly and give you solace for those that are stressed.
Yeah.
So I think that with the passage of time, you know, we are seeing it in computer science.
Yeah.
We have graduates and people that have developed certain mobile applications.
Yeah.
Yeah. With the passage of time, autocracy is, for instance, you remember Toivo in 2012 or 2011, the whole SWAPO Central Committee was discussing Facebook posts, book phase. You remember President Pohamba saying all those things. Yeah, they are discussing on book phase, but I tell you now, there is no minister who doesn't have a social media page today.
Yeah.
You know, yes, it's like that now, but I think academics,
Yes.
they will generally regain their space for the benefit of our country. The University of Namibia changed its mission statement now because it wants to be a relevant international hub for higher education, training and innovation by 2030 in the vision. But in the mission statement, the university says that they want to help in development. In other words, translational research, in terms of research that can translate and can manifest in society. So the new direction that the university is taking, I'm confident that they will have no choice. Even if the leadership tries to be autocratic, it's going to be very difficult because that very vision and mission would translate into, because how do you have translational research when academics are not getting an opportunity to do whatever they want to do in shaping society? So I'm confident that let's give it time.
Sure.
Let's give it a year or two.
Yes.
We're good to go.
Indeed. Last question, Doctor, is it's a short one, and I want you to understand the context of this question. I'm not trying to box your answer here.
Fine, yeah.
But it's a question about, I'm curious to know in your analysis, especially when you say that at your level, your focus is on those in power. What is the one thing that government did well in dealing with this COVID-19 situation? One or two things that you think these two, at least those two, were handled well.
Do you want me to answer that question analytically, or you want me to answer that question at face value?
Now, I want you to give my viewers a sense of just
just something to
don't be too academic.
Okay.
Just what is it?
Some sense of. Oh well, the one of the things that I think government have done well, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, is realizing the centrality of the matter. That this matter is central to our governance. So I mean, but then again, that's what everybody else is doing international. But the decision by government, cabinet, or the president, whoever was responsible for that, to ensure a communication strategy. Yeah. So it was a very clever way of doing things. In other words, where in a moment of crisis you have to centralize information.
Yeah.
Not always centralize information, not in terms of access like what they were doing to journalists, but in terms of saying that no.
There's one message sort of.
No, particularly bringing articulate people to the center.
Oh yeah.
So in other words, you remember one of those first press conferences, we don't really have a lot of talented politicians, but bringing forth people like Yvonne Dowsab to come and articulate the government position as far as the clarity of purpose, the clarity of objective. People like Yvonne bring to the fore. Kalumbi struggles now and then, but particularly his executive director. The clarity of purpose for me was quite important. So when they brought forward a communication strategy that is correct, because sometimes if you are not very clear in people who are speaking for you, you create a lot of confusion. Yeah. So government did well. That's the first thing. The second thing that government did well in this crisis is something that usually doesn't happen with this regime, is your ability to correct your mistake. Yeah, usually when government just take a position, they go with it, even if people point out that it's wrong. So take, for example, the issue of alcohol. Yeah, so in some part of the regulations were passed, and it says alcohol that is not higher than 3%. Then we're basically saying, no, but you didn't measure Tombo. You are busy humiliating people. How did you determine how did you measure Tombo in the first place? So we were very clear, and we're criticizing government on that. And they went to pass other regulations that banned alcohol. So in other words, then you begin to see, yeah. So this government is actually listening. Usually, there's other people who are just, hey, government, you are doing well, you are doing well. But a leader at one point, or leaders at one point, realize that, yes, I see you that are clapping hands for me.
Yes.
I see you, but these guys have a point.
Yes.
If we are banning alcohol, we must ban alcohol for everyone.
Yes.
It's not just for some selective. So that ability to correct yourself when you are wrong, it's one of the things that came out very well. Even Kalumbi Shangola was very weak in terms of his communication, but he come with confidence to a press conference and says, because this is a time of crisis.
Yes.
It's not a time of scoring point. And he come to a press conference and say that I made a mistake.
Yes.
I was not properly informed.
Yes.
The team did not tell me that.
Yes.
So those things, that communication strategy, and putting people who are not articulate, who can't communicate at the back, bringing articulate people at the front, that's number one. The communication strategy was quite effective.
Yes.
And the second is that the ability to acknowledge mistakes.
I'll stop you there.
Yeah, the ability to self-correct.
Yes.
It was refreshing to finally see that,
Indeed.
somebody is listening to logic, to superior logic.
Yes.
So it was quite amazing, and it's quite very interesting. We're definitely going to have a new society. There's going to be a post. Things are never going to be the same.
Yes, I'll stop you there, Doc, because of time. But I knew exactly what you were going to say, which is also which is positive also to say that of course we must do a post. It's called what, when someone dies and then you posthumous. I can't remember the word now, but. Post-mortem post-mortem analysis of how things can get better. But thank you for coming through, and once again, sincere congratulations on your doctorate.
Thank you very much to you and your viewers.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was Dr. Job Amupanda speaking to us about his latest achievement of getting his PhD in political science, and also engaging us on a few other things as you heard them. I hope you enjoyed the show like I did. He's always a very colorful man, always very articulate on issues, and that is why we bring him here for the second time on the show. Good night.